So, dear Sheriff Danny Sanchez, you're being summoned for a civil action number 24CV01851KAS, titled Masters versus the Criminals and the Colorado Officials Who Protect Them. By the time that you receive this summons and complaint, you have 21 days to answer to the allegations. That's according to the Rules of Procedure Rule number 11. The pleadings that are allowed are listed in Rule 7 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. Rule 7B allows an answer to a complaint. The general rules for pleadings are listed in Rule 8. You can deny part of the allegation, deny it all, or not deny anything. Rule 8D declares that pleadings must be concise and direct. Rule 8E declares that pleadings must be construed so as to do justice. And the address of the courthouse to send the answer and or non-denial to Alfred A. Arraj, U.S. Courthouse, 901 19th Street, Denver, Colorado, 80294. Now, I also have interrogatories. So, Sheriff Danny Sanchez, I would like for you to answer several questions. Now, I had endured dozens and dozens of crimes while living in Costilla County while you were the sheriff, including having my dog viciously and brutally and intentionally murdered. Why were you deliberately indifferent to the crimes that were committed against me? What does it take for a citizen of Costilla County to get the protection of the police? Who murdered my Tecumseh? Who murdered my dog? How far has that investigation gone? Who all did you investigate? Did you canvass the neighborhood? How much violence and oppression and crimes is one good and honest and lawful man supposed to endure? When the crimes had happened, I called 911. But you, Danny Sanchez, Sheriff Danny Sanchez, and your deputies, you didn't do a damn thing about any of it. I paid for my planning and zoning permits. Nobody else around me paid for their planning and zoning permits. You think the person that's going around committing the crimes is the person calling 911 and the person that filed for their planning and zoning permits? Why do the criminals who commit the crimes get to freely live and drive and be merry without any restrictions? Danny Sanchez, doesn't case and statutory evidence and procedure law all stand upon the solid bedrock of constitutional law? Doesn't the rights in Colorado's Constitution combined with the rights in America's Constitution equal the people's total bushel of freedoms? Should we read the U.S. Constitution or the Colorado's Constitution? Which Constitution do you believe is superfluous? Do you have a coherent and comprehensive theory of morals and law, Sheriff? If not, why not? Hey, Sheriff, you remember that video of the guy clicking his gun at me? Well, that's actually felony menacing. Who is that guy? Did you ever figure out who committed that crime? Have you ever arrested anybody for being deprived of their constitutional rights? As much as you're supposed to stop crime, you're also supposed to uphold my freedoms. Isn't there a certain charm in the word constitutional? Do you have a personal constitution? If so, what is your personal constitution? Atticus Finch said that you can't truly know a person unless you've walked around in their skin. Do you have empathy? What are your virtues, if any? Hey, Sheriff, why must the moral and lawful have to endure any crimes? Hey, Sheriff, do you believe in the Bill of Rights? If you were threatened at your house when you weren't harming anybody, you don't believe that you get a right to defend yourself? Shouldn't the law punish and protect everybody equally? If the cops ain't going to do shit, if the courts ain't going to do shit, if the prosecutor's not going to do shit, then you're not even allowed to defend yourself. Does that sound right to you? By allowing criminals to move in without planning and zoning permits and letting them commit whatever crimes that they please, the planning and zoning and the cops and the courts are creating the very criminal element that they pretend to oppose. How much longer can a system who criminalizes the victims and protects the criminals survive? Kenny John was murdered by Christopher Mondragon. So, Sheriff, is Christopher Mondragon going to see 24 court appearances? Is he going to be robbed of his money and his homestead? When Pickerel would commit a crime, he would just stay inside his house when Schultz came out. And Schultz just wasted my time. Isn't that genius, Sheriff? I mean, all you got to do is commit the crime, stay inside your house. Isn't that brilliant, Sheriff? You can't figure it out, can you? You and your deputies didn't know what to do then, did you? Pickerel is a devil worshiper. Are you a devil worshiper too? Because there's no way any of those involved can call themselves a Christian. Don't even tell me you're calling yourself a Christian, Sheriff. Don't even tell me that. Hey, Sheriff, do you have a conscience? Hey, Sheriff, do you have morals? If so, Sheriff, what are your morals? I would love to hear about them. Hey, Sheriff, if you don't even stand up for the truth, then what do you stand for? Anything? If you don't have morals or law, then what do you got? Well, you got nothing. That's what you got. For a regular citizen in the SLV, would you suggest for them to join the Bloods or the Crips or the Sovereign Citizens? Which association would you say is fair and square, balanced, and even-handed? Which one of those associations would offer the protection and service that the SLV cops and courts and clerks and DAs couldn't or wouldn't supply? Hey, Sheriff, how many crimes have you had to endure while in Costilla County? I bet you'd probably stand up against crimes that happened to you, right? You hypocrite. I'm an honest and good and lawful man. At some point in the proceedings, I expected a conscience or righteousness or goodness to prevail. If a few warning shots shot in defense of home, person, and property are major offenses, oh, by the way, that's in the Colorado Constitution, you're allowed to bear guns in defense of home, person, and property. Why wouldn't the bloody murder of my dog Tecumseh be a crime? What about the stalking or the arsons or the drive-by shootings? None of those are crimes. None of those are crimes. So you can't shoot a couple warning shots to stop a person that was threatening you, but you're allowed to drive over to people's houses and shoot at them while they're walking outside their homes? You don't see any problems with this hypocrisy, do you? Now, Sheriff, after ignoring so many crimes, many light harassment, misdemeanors, but some major felonies, how can you call that equal protection? How is that established in justice, Sheriff? To err is human unless you have a uniform on. Does a badge and a hat change the dynamics of human nature? A superior told the cops in the murder of Christian Glass to not engage with him. Is that what we're supposed to do? Should we, the people, fear for our lives just for engaging with the cops? Shouldn't good and innocent people be welcomed and encouraged to speak out and testify against the criminals in their neighborhood? Wouldn't that culture be more conducive to a safe and peaceful neighborhood? Hey, Sheriff, shouldn't the police add warning shots to their continuum of force? How many officer-involved murders would have been prevented if warning shots was added to the continuum of force? Hey, Sheriff, to prevent tyranny, you know that our Constitution has these 8 powers: bicameralism, federalism, Bill of Rights, constitutionalism, rule of law, elections, 3 branches of government, and enumerated powers. Does it not? Hey, Sheriff, are you a sovereign citizen? Are you a Nazi? Are you a Crypt or a Blood or a member of some other criminal organization? Hey, Sheriff, for a regular citizen in the SLV, would you suggest for them to join the Bloods and the Crips and the Sovereign Citizens? Which one of those groups do you think would actually provide the judicial fairness that the government does not supply? Are you planning on arresting Hiram Richardson or Robert Pickerel or Sam Jepson or Phil Greeny anytime soon? Hey, Sheriff, why would self-defense to a person who threatened my property, home, and life be a crime? Hey, Sheriff, have you ever arrested a person for the deprivation of their civil liberties? If so, who did you arrest and what was the charge? Hey, Sheriff, have you ever read the Colorado's Bill of Rights? Do you enforce Colorado's Bill of Rights? Hey, Sheriff, did you know that the star player judges are allowed to apply for immunity, but none of the supporting parties, like prosecutors, clerks, and cops, cannot? Hey, Sheriff, did you ever canvass the neighborhood to see who was complying with planning and zoning? Ann Kelly and Michael Gonzalez, the prosecutor and the judge, you know they don't give a damn about planning and zoning law? Hey, Sheriff, do you find it difficult, if not impossible, to enforce law that the courts don't enforce? Where does Brandon Howerton work now? Was Brandon Howerton fired because of his involvement in my situation? Hey, Sheriff, where does Noble Havens work now? Hey, Sheriff, are you still allowing for Phil Greeny and Robert Pickerel and Sam Jepson and Phil Greeny and friends to continue to commit crimes out by the Labatt Bridge without any fear of arrest or even a tongue lashing, not even a don't you dare do that, not even a slap on the wrist, huh? How many people around the Labatt Bridge are you okay with committing crimes? Are they still burning people's houses out down there? They still murdering people's dogs? Well, they got no resistance from the police or the courts, so bullies will continue to bully until they're stopped, right? And you're not going to stop them. Hey, Sheriff, Why did your cops and clerks and DAs and judges ignore so many arsons? You would think 6 arsons,